Hello, everyone, and welcome to the next episode of Art Side of Life, where I chat with inspiring artists 5 days a week. My name is Eva, and my guest today is Alli Koch from Alli Koch Design. And you will learn about how she got to start her own brand and a company and how to gain confidence.
Yeah, confidence. I was really, I had a little bit of self-doubt, and sometimes I get kind of like oh man, there's better people out there. Like, why did they ask me? But then it's like, no, Allie, like they asked you for a reason. Like, you're working hard, like you're creating beautiful things.
Alli is a founder and designer of Alli Koch Design out of Dallas, Texas. She specializes in creating custom illustrations, calligraphy, and designs while teaching others to create beautiful things too. Alli Koch designs consist of designs that are modern, minimal, and full of neutral colors with pops of color here and there. Everything is made to order and created by hand, therefore each design is one of a kind and ready to meet each client's specific needs. And Alli also loves to share her knowledge with others, hosting workshops to help them fulfill their dreams of learning more about illustrations, lettering, and owning a business. In 2017, she published her first book, How to Draw Modern Florals, and she is engaged more and more in creating murals in her hometown and other areas. So please welcome Alli Koch, and let's get to the interview. Hello and welcome everyone to the next episode of Art Side of Life, and I'm super happy to have here my guest today, Alli Koch. Hi!
Hello.
So let's start with your background, and maybe you can tell us a bit how you got to art and what was your biggest decisions you had to do.
Yeah, so I always kind of doodled on everything. If there was a piece of paper, it had some type of doodle on it. I started going to school. I did like interior design at first and then chickened out. Everyone around me was like, oh, you need a business degree. What are you going to do with art? Kind of that like whole starving artist talk. And so I got a degree in marketing, got out of school, and actually couldn't find a job with a business degree. Everyone was telling me that I needed. So while I was interviewing for jobs, I kind of picked up art again because I had missed it going through business. Picked up some doing little hobbies and things like that while I was interviewing. So posted some stuff that I made on Instagram, and most of the stuff I just started off with myself and things that I would put around my apartment. And then making some stuff for friends. And so I would post that or give that to them. And Instagram is a crazy, crazy world on its own. I post one thing and then 10 people see it and they're like, oh my gosh, I want one too. And long story short, it just kind of snowballed from there. More people saw the things because every time I would make something, I would post it. So they would see the more and more that I was making, and more people started to contact me and wanting some artwork. So it really started off with like making signs and a lot of like Etsy little things, like writing on globes or wood and things like that. And it just kind of gradually turned into really what I like and what I want to do. I'm really drawn to more like pen and ink and paper instead of anything else but paper, which is how I started off with, and quickly learned that I actually didn't like that. I liked the paper part, so quit doing that in my business and then really flourished on the other side. So that's kind of how I started.
And now you also do like different materials, right? I saw that you did like a jacket or other stuff, right?
Oh, now I'm starting to get into like what can I do other than paper. So I love leather. It still has that smooth consistency that you kind of find with paper. So painting jackets. I do a lot of wedding invitations. So a lot of those jackets are for brides, or doing some for a company with like their logo on it and things like that. So those are really fun, just to kind of do something a little different, be creative.
And do you have like a favorite tools as a like favorite brand of pencil or favorite ink?
Yeah, micron pins. I use them all day, every day, all day long. They're my favorite. I definitely go through them like they're candy.
Perfect. And what was maybe the best advice you ever received when you were like starting your business?
Um, the best advice is kind of also like my worst advice. At the beginning, everyone's like, just always say yes, do as much as you can, build your portfolio, um, never say no to an opportunity, which I took. I literally didn't say no to anything, just trying to get my name out there, meet as many people as I can, things like that. But now it's like to the point to where like, okay, do that in the beginning, but when does the beginning kind of end, and when do you feel established enough to start saying no? So that's where I'm kind of at the moment of I'm making myself sick saying yes to everything. I can't do it all. So it's that kind of battle of when do I say no and when do I say yes?
Yeah, and what does it like kind of mean in your head, or what is the conversation with yourself when you have to decide to say no?
Oh man, you don't want to know. It's oh my gosh, this is awesome. I'm so happy that they contacted me. But then it's like I look at my calendar, I'm like, oh man, I really probably shouldn't. And then it's like, oh, it's just sleep, or it's just one extra thing, when really you think that it's only gonna be a couple of minutes or a couple of hours, and then God forbid if something goes wrong, then it's more hours or days that you don't plan. So it's just like things of like really trying to balance that work and then also life, and trying to make time. I know it sounds bad, but having to put life on your calendar, like you have to like make time to be like, no, you can't do anything either at this time or this day, and kind of really trying to stick to that as
So,
much as possible.
so do you plan, for example, I don't know, Saturday as a, I don't know, sports day or family day or something like that?
Yeah, I try to really like Fridays, like don't work at all. Saturdays, I do like a podcast with my dad, and then hang out with him, and then hang out with my husband. It's just trying to get over that guilty feeling of when you work from home and for yourself, majority of the time it's hard to kind of switch that on and off. Like when your computer's just right there, like, oh, let me open it up and see, or it's on my phone, or like, oh, let me check this email. It's like constantly never off, like a 9 to 5 job where they go to work, they sometimes leave their computer there, and then they never see it until the next morning. Versus I've literally feel like I'm checking my email all the time, or thinking up of new ideas and things like that. Like I'm never off. So um, trying to get over that guilt is challenging. I think a lot of entrepreneurs have the same kind of guilt sometimes. So definitely like keeping myself busy. Naps are totally okay. Like it's, yeah, just reminding myself that it's totally okay to not be working all the time, because not one person works 24/7.
Yeah, what are you talking about? That's not true.
Yeah.
And so when you were starting out, did you have a mentor or someone who inspired you?
Yeah, so I got really, really lucky, and my dad is actually a kind of motivational speaker. He speaks to Fortune 500 companies on accountability and leadership and things like that. So he is just a man full of wisdom. So I've grown up quite a bit of just really soaking in everything that he offers and we talk about. So I've had breakfast with him. It's kind of like our little tradition every Saturday since I was 13. So we would just talk about life skills and when I started the business, like business tips and things like that. So he has really helped me quite a bit. So I know not everyone's lucky enough to do that. I did do one like 6 months with a business coach. Just to there are some things that my dad is always my number one cheerleader. So he's always like, oh my gosh, you can do it, you can do it. But I needed someone to kind of like push me and be like, no, actually you're doing that wrong and you need to be doing something else, versus someone who's always like, yeah, do that, do that. So I did hire a business coach for 6 months just to kind of push my buttons and really get me thinking about things and life balance, and it helped quite a bit.
And what was maybe the best lesson what your father taught you?
Oh man, I'll never forget. I'm growing up, I was a huge perfectionist. Like I would literally scratch a whole project and start completely over if there were like one line that was just a tad bit crooked, because all I could see was that one crooked line. Even if the whole project was beautiful, I would have noticed that one crooked line. So my dad told me, he's like, if it wasn't perfect, it wouldn't look handmade. It would look computerized. And you didn't do this on a computer, you did this by hand. So that's what kind of gives it that characteristic of this being handmade. So pretty much everything that I do when I look at it and I finish it, I'm like, if it wasn't perfect, or if it was perfect, it wouldn't look handmade. So that's kind of been like my motto. He's full of tons of different things. I mean, I could be here all day talking about all the things that he tells me. So, but that's probably one that really sticks out.
Perfect. And now, when you think about your branding, or what is your vision, or how do you position yourself on the market, how would you describe your brand?
Yeah, I think when I first started out, I went through being by yourself. You have a lot of like reflection and thinking about like how you want to dress and how you want to act. Like in school, you're always surrounded by everyone else, so you kind of like form to like what the popular girls are wearing and things like that. So I think going all through school, I was really influenced by what other people thought and loved and what they thought was cool. So being by myself for majority of the day when you're an entrepreneurial, I kind of really found myself and found what I liked and what I wanted to draw and kind of like my brand, so to sense, because it's technically branding myself. So those kind of first 2 years were really crucial to my art, because I started off very colorful pinks and glitters and things that I thought were what every other girl wanted and liked, which granted a lot did, but it was more for the other person and not really for me. So within those 2 years, I kind of transitioned and saw what I really liked and what I was really inspired by and took out the color. Not really inspired by the color. I'm really inspired more of that black and white and that ink and more textures and things like that versus girly and glittery things. Don't get me wrong, those are really pretty, but it's just not what inspires me. So I was really able to hone in, and I think it kind of set me apart. A lot of calligraphers and a lot of illustrators, that's kind of how I started in the business, was in calligraphy majority of the time. So they were doing all of that on the side of like the pinks and the blushes. And so when I kind of took a 180 and was like, nope, not going to do that, I'm just going to stick to this, I think it really kind of put myself in a different pocket. And that's kind of what propelled my brand and where I am today and where I kind of stepped out of that. I didn't want to categorize myself as a calligrapher, more of as like a visual artist, to where I can do multiple things visually, not just calligraphy or not just leather jackets or, I mean, I wrote a book on how to draw flowers. I'm painting murals all around town. So just a lot of little things that I can create with my hands.
And what is kind of you mentioned the inspiration. Do you have maybe something which is strange which inspires you as well?
I don't know if it's strange, but I love, love, love going to nurseries, looking at plants. The minute I step in a nursery, I just feel it's just kind of like my peace and calming, and I put my phone away, and because you have to have two hands with plants, so it's just a time where I can like sit and look at the plants and look at them differently, and I really get inspired when I go there.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah.
And so when we were talking about the inspiration and how you started as well, what would you advise people to start with, or our audience, like if you are totally new and if you have maybe favorite tools or mediums that you started with, or maybe what, as you mentioned, you use now?
Yeah, I think a lot of people use Instagram as inspiration, and it can really, it's a love-hate relationship, at least for me. It can really get um, you into a bad mindset really quickly. Sometimes when people go to look on Instagram for inspiration, they start to compare and they start to look poorly on them stuff like, oh, I'm not doing this, or she's so much better than me. Like, I know for a while, there's like a good 6 months to almost a year, I kind of had to get off Instagram. I still posted on my stuff because Instagram's like the one thing that I can put my work out there and grow my business. But looking at others people's works, I just kind of had to stop and not look at that, so I could really find my style
Mm-hmm.
versus trying to find inspiration from another person's style. And I didn't want to mimic or draw too much inspiration or um, try to. I didn't never wanted to have another person mimic or copy or influence too heavily on my style. Finding your own style is what's really, really going to propel you again from being different from everyone else. So I think just really finding like, I started to draw flowers a lot. I loved that nature wasn't perfect, so I didn't feel like I had to be perfect. So going to get real flowers and things like that, that helped quite a bit. My favorite tool probably that's easiest is using that iPad Pro. It's just so, I mean, I use it every day, almost sometimes all day. I just love it. Even if it's just me doodling, it's super easy. And if I don't like it, I don't feel like I'm wasting paper or killing trees. I just swipe and then it's gone. So,
And do you use a Procreate app, I guess, maybe?
yeah.
Yeah. And what is your favorite flower?
My favorite flower is the anemone. It's really hard to pronounce, but I love them. Typically, granted, majority of the time you see them black and white, so it's not a lot of color. They have color anemones, but my favorite's probably the black and white one. And then obviously peonies and proteas and oh man, I love them all, but an anemone is probably my favorite.
Oh, perfect. I don't think I even know which one it is. I will have to Google it afterwards.
It's pretty. Once you see it, you're like, oh yeah, that looks like Allie.
And so, how do you design your day? Because you work on different projects and podcasts and
Yeah.
everything. So, how does it
So
look like?
a day right now is completely different. I'm trying hard to get more into a routine. I think routine is really great for people. Granted, I don't want to be like, okay, 9 o'clock, I got to start working, and oh, 5 o'clock, now it's time to end it. I think that's the flexibility of entrepreneurial life is what's really great, and we I want to hone in on that. So, I mean, if I want to start work and want to start till 3, that's great. Uh, if I don't, sometimes there's even days where I don't start working until 8 o'clock at night. Granted, I'm up till 2 o'clock in the morning, but I am a big night owl, so I definitely like to like sleep in. So each day is really, really different. If you would have asked me this 2 weeks ago, it would have been going to Chick-fil-A, getting breakfast, answering emails. Now I'm trying to do yoga and some more stuff that's better for my body, not fast food all the time. So just trying to really, really kind of focus in on better well-being and not working all the time.
And so, when you are like combining your income source from different projects, do you have, or how do you build your income table, with the legs and all of that?
Yeah, and I should have paid more attention in math class for sure. It's definitely money is again love-hate relationship. I love it. Everyone loves it, I think. But then it's also sometimes it's hard asking for it. It's just like, oh, I really like this project, and since I really, really like it, it's hard to charge someone for it. But then it's like you have to realize that like you have to have value and make a living and things like that. So I'm really, really fortunate to have a husband that supports me, and we can fully survive on his income, which is really nice, especially starting at the beginning because obviously I didn't really have that like starving artist phase. I never like was negative. I think maybe like 1 or 2 months I was negative and I spent way too much money on silly supplies that I didn't need. So I kind of like really honed in on like, okay, did I really need these supplies? No, not really. I was buying them for like a what if type of purpose. So now I just only buy my supplies for the projects that I have guaranteed. The deposits are paid, then I go buy my supplies and things like that. So it's nice that we can live off of his, and then all of mine just kind of like extra fun money. So it takes off a little bit of the pressure of having to support myself fully. So I'm really grateful for that.
And what about the projects you are working on now, or something you can share, like which will come out in the future, or something you're excited
Yeah,
about?
I know. So I started doing murals, and I live in Dallas, Texas. So I started doing them. My very first mural was outside of my studio, and then someone saw it, and they're like, "Oh, I want one." And then again, that triple effect of like, "Oh my gosh, I want one too." So I'm just now recently getting inquiries for murals outside of Dallas, Texas. Some of them I can't say at the moment because they're still in the works and I don't want to jinx it. But I'm really, really excited to be able to expand that art outside of Dallas. So hopefully that works out. Cross my fingers.
Ah, perfect. And when you will be creating murals, they will be also black and white, or will you go more to colors later on, or you don't know yet?
Yeah. So some of them I typically keep black and white. Obviously, some of them needs color. There's a big wall here. We call it like the heart mural because it's a bunch of hearts, but then it's also art. And it's just so many different colors. So that was probably the most color I've ever seen for a whole week straight. It was just working with color. So I definitely use color, and I know when color needs to be used based off of the project. So, and of course, color always draws people in. So murals, sometimes it's a little easier to add in color as well. But most of the time, I'm mainly inspired, and I feel like I do my best work black and white. So.
And how do you keep yourself motivated?
Oh, I definitely, so for the first couple of years, my husband just kind of looked as my business as a hobby, which it did. It started off making like little signs, and I opened an Etsy shop, which a lot of hobby like side businesses have. So for the first year was really kind of proving to him that no, I didn't need a 9 to 5 job, that this could actually be a business. So for that kind of really kind of put the fire underneath my belt to really prove to him that this could be a business and it is profitable and I can get my name out there. So for a long while, it was proving him wrong, essentially. So it didn't take long at all. He's like, okay, Allie, I get it. Like, you're doing a really great job. Just keep going now. So I think it's just kind of beating the odds and really like not a lot of people can do this, and not a lot of people can build a company from the ground up by themselves just with their 2 hands and heart. It takes a lot of heart and courage. So I think that's a lot of motivation for sure. And I'm getting to the point, it's really crazy. And I just never thought this would ever happen. But a lot of people on Instagram are contacting me like, oh my gosh, you're inspiring. You give me more confidence. Like, it's just crazy that the work that I'm creating, either for myself or for someone else, is also giving life to something else that I don't even know about, or giving someone else confidence and things like that. So I think that is really, really big motivation to just keep going.
And do you have maybe some Instagram tips or something, you learn over the time?
Yeah, oh my gosh, going back and looking at my Instagram photos, I was so embarrassed. I think everyone does that. Like, what was I thinking? Natural light. You have to use natural light. So if you finish something, a lot of people are like, oh my gosh, I love this. I just finished it. I want to take a picture of it, but it's 12 o'clock at night. Wait, do it in the morning. Take that photo in natural light. It will people are way more attracted to natural light photos, but then they're also way more attracted uh, to being really personable on Instagram. No one wants to look at a photo and then say like, "Oh, look at this pretty photo." Like, duh, I'm already looking at this pretty photo. Like, have some meaning behind it, or what inspired you to create this pretty photo, or things like that. People are way more drawn into your personal life, which is odd. But a lot of people like personal life and can connect a lot better through that versus just a pretty picture.
Yeah, but it makes sense because like we all want to live kind of in a tribe. We want to be
Yeah.
like a part of something. So yeah, also the personal life, it's like maybe you can find something you have similar like with that person.
Yeah. And you can relate to. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And is there something you wish you knew before you started the whole thing? Kind of like if you would give advice to young self.
Yeah, confidence. I was really, I had a little bit of self-doubt, and sometimes I do, like, I get kind of like oh man, there's better people out there. Like, why did they ask me? But then it's like, no, Allie, like, they asked you for a reason. Like, you're working hard, like, you're creating beautiful things. So just confidence is really key. Everyone struggles with it. I still struggle with it. I bet a lot of even celebrities struggle with it. Like, just having confidence right off the bat and growing that confidence is definitely key and will help you kind of help you throughout the journey.
Yeah. And do you have maybe like a favorite book you kind of give to people as a gift or like movie?
I wish I read. I don't have time to read. I listen to podcasts, things like that. This was one of those because you give me the questions beforehand, which I really appreciate, and I was just like, man, I have no idea. So I really don't know.
So I know what about like movies and documentaries? Do you have time for that or not so much?
Sometimes I'm a big like TV person. I kind of, but it's just like silly little TV. A lot of times I like to like work in silence, and so there's no distraction.
Mhm.
So TV is a kind of a good break to turn the mind off. So and but it's typically just like what's ever playing on the television at the moment.
And what about the favorite podcasts? You mentioned some inspiration.
Yeah, I will obviously listen to. Is it weird to listen to your own podcast? I listen to me and my dad's podcast. I'm excited to listen to this one. I'm really excited to hear what other artists are doing. I just kind of like really kind of Google or not Google, but search what I'm like want to learn and then kind of find that podcast based on the mood in that day.
Yeah, yeah. And do you have a favorite quote as well?
Quote, probably what I said at the beginning, like if it was perfect, it wouldn't be handmade. So I think that's kind of like my motto for sure.
Yeah, yeah, and now I'm thinking like with the project and the book you mentioned, like can you describe it for people as well? Like what is the book about?
Yeah, so I wrote a book recently. It's a step-by-step tutorial on how to draw different flowers. So there's 25 different flowers, succulents, cacti, and I break it down step by step with illustrations to kind of teach people how to look at this flower and really break down the steps and People seem to really like it. I'm amazed by the flowers that other people are drawing, learning for my book, and it's really great to follow along on other people's journeys.
Yeah, that's really nice. And maybe what was your like favorite project to work on so far, or maybe something memorable?
Yeah, I did the mural with like a lot of heart, the heart mural. That was
Hmm.
really, really great. I've gotten quite a bit of work from it because I worked with reward style. I don't know if you know about it. It's like the blogger industry. So the blogger industry is just crazy massive, a monster of its own. So that was really fun to work on. It took a full week, literally 8 a.m. to 12 a.m. every day for 7 days. So it was pretty big and hot, but it was so much fun. I met quite a bit of new friends through that project.
Yeah, and how do you do networking now? You mentioned social networks, and do you also go for events and like these groups? Are you part of Facebook groups as well?
I'm a part of them. I'm not really active on them. It's just one other thing that I would have to keep up with. It's hard enough trying to keep up with email and then social life and friends. But majority of the time, majority of my whole business, I have like 98% of it is through Instagram. Word of mouth is great. So I have a website. People can go and look on that, and I have a Facebook, but um, I'm really horrible at posting onto it. But Instagram's kind of like my bread and butter for
Hmm.
sure. For Instagram and word of mouth.
And is there something which simplifies your life, maybe either with posting or with drawing? You mentioned iPad Pro. Is there something else you bought and which kind of helps you every day?
Yeah, iPad Pro is a life changer. I don't know what I was doing. I mean, I do know what I was doing. It was taking like 10 times as long, but it is so easy to work on that, the iPad. And then, yeah, really just the iPad Pros really just kind of helped me simplify everything. If you don't have one, I want the minute people are like, "Oh my gosh, I want to get into art." I was like, the first thing I asked is, "Oh my gosh, do you have an iPad Pro?" And they're like, "No." And it's like, "Go out right now, go get it. It's worth every penny."
Oh wow, cool. Because I bought actually all the accessories already. I'm like, okay, I'm buying it and I still haven't bought it. So
Go buy it. You'll be like, "Oh my gosh, why did I take so long?"
perfect. And what about the future? And if you think about like 5 to 10 years, then you cannot fail. And what would be your dream scenario? And you are not afraid of anything.
Oh man, definitely traveling more. I definitely want to travel. It's great that I can pick up and do what I love to do wherever. So definitely Dallas will always be my home base, but I would definitely love to be able to travel more with my work.
And so, where did you go so far?
Not for work, but I've traveled to Japan. That was the first time I've ever been out of the country. Cultural shock for sure. But I haven't really, I'm working on it. Those murals hopefully will get me out of Dallas, but I've only been doing this for 3 years, almost 3 years. So hopefully, I'll be able to travel more, and get me out of Dallas.
And you did also some workshop now recently, right? When you were teaching or speaking.
Yeah, I do. I teach like modern calligraphy, brush lettering, a little bit of watercolor. I do like private lessons. I love doing those. I love teaching. I think it's definitely my purpose in life is to kind of tell, like, also make things, but also teach others that they too can create beautiful things. So I do that, and then we'll slowly try to incorporate how to draw florals and teaching and things like that. Other outside of the book, obviously.
Ah, perfect. I mean, that sounds really good. But maybe you can travel with that too, like teaching
Yeah,
conferences and stuff.
yeah, I would love that.
Perfect. And the last question I want to ask you is about far, far future. And what would you like to be remembered for in 100 years?
Probably being true to myself and just being an inspiration to other people. I think that's the biggest compliment. Never in a million years thought that this would ever happen. I was just making art just to make art, and I had no idea that it would be inspiring. So it's a really, really great, big, huge compliment. So I'm just keeping that going for sure.
Ah, perfect. Then before we say goodbye, maybe you can share like last piece of guidance or advice or key takeaway for our audience.
Yeah, just work-life balance for sure. Being confident is key. Networking, meeting people. There's so many things that I bet you cover with all of your amazing artists and your podcast. So I'm excited to hear. But for sure, I think definitely, I guess the good takeaway here is confidence.
I like it.
Yeah.
So thank you so much again for being here. It was nice.
Thank you so much.
And thanks everyone for joining, and see you in the next episode.
Awesome.
Hey guys, if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and let me know in comments. Also, please subscribe to my channel for more videos because I post new interview every single workday. You can also find the resources mentioned in this episode at artsideoflife.com. Just type a guest name in the search bar. There is also a little freebie waiting for you, so go check it out. If you want to listen to the interviews on the go, make sure to check out the podcast episodes at artsideoflife.com/podcast. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate you, and don't forget to inspire each other. I will see you guys in the next episode.